Hey everyone, how's it going? So, I started working on this a little bit earlier today, and thought I'd jump on and record the rest of it. I did it left-handed. Faber-Castell Faber-Castell brush tip markers for her flesh tone. Of course, my trusty Molotow black liners for her outlines. I used Lyra neon colored pencils for her hair, and even one or two of the metallic Lyra colored pencils, and Crayola crayons for the outlines of the squares, with some watercolored pencils, also by Lyra, for the squares that are already colored in. Lyra is a really great brand. I was gifted a few sets of them a couple years ago, and they're really good. They're so smooth and great color to them. They're really good. Her bikini bottom or underwear, whatever those are, I'm not sure, are actually done with the neon Lyra colored pencils as well. So I just wanted to get some colored pencil or some left-handed drawing practice in, do something kind of fun, and take a break from the commission I'm working on that you saw earlier. And also, I don't often practice using a paintbrush with my left hand when I'm doing my when I'm working left-handed, so it's also just something good for me a good little exercise for me. The idea with the colors behind her are a sunset, but I didn't want to just do a regular looking sunset, so here we are. Watercolor pencils are fairly easy to use in that you just color in where you want them, get a wet brush, and go over them. And you can blend them like you would paints. You can even get the paper wet and then use the watercolor pencils on top of the wet paper, depending on the paper and how sharp your pencils are. Keep in mind you could rough up the top layer of the paper, and then it could end up being really noticeable. Sorry, I bumped the table there. On your in your piece if you mess up that layer. Sometimes I've been able to fix it, because there have been times where I've done that myself, and I've like, oh god, I hope I can make this work, and I did. But you're not, can't always be that lucky. So part of what I wanted to test here is the crayons. Since they're, it's wax, I was hoping that it would stop any of the paint, the watercolor, from running. Which I guess it's doing alright. I'm not really giving it a lot of opportunity to test that theory. But here we go. And the two remaining shapes, there's a rectangle, and this one's kind of It's not quite a rectangle, square-ish, whatever. There, they'll be colored in with just regular watercolor instead of watercolored pencils. And I could use a larger brush with the water, but larger brush would hold more water, and I don't want to mess up the paper or have some of the water make a bigger mess. So keep the brushes kind of small. Alright. Trying to decide which brush to use. I have a few of them over here and I think I've given myself too many options. So this square here, I did mix red and white, of course, to make a bit more of a pinkish color. But it's just, I tell you that because I did mention that you can mix the watercolored pencils, and you know what, I'm going to brave a larger brush. Let's see. So far so good, right? Oh no! Well, there goes my theory on the wax of the crayon stopping that from happening. Now I know. I'm not using watercolor paper. I'm just using regular drawing paper. There is a difference if you don't know. Watercolor paper is thicker, and so it's able to withstand water. But it's also very expensive, so I try to, well, the good stuff is comes in a big block of it, as they call it, instead of a sketch pad. Just usually hear it called a block, and it is pretty pricey. See, there we go. There goes my theory on the crayon stopping. It's okay. I'm saying a lot in this video. I'm sorry. I think I've gotten tired. The cheaper watercolor sketchbooks, I found the paper isn't quite thick enough for me. So I just go with, usually mixed media paper works, or sometimes I've done it on Bristol, but either way the paper kind of warps a little bit. So you just have to keep that in mind. But again, this piece is just, it's practice. I still want to do well on it, but it's not like it's for a show, you know? So I didn't quite have the purple that I wanted for this rectangle. So I mixed a red watercolor pencil and a blue watercolor pencil to get purple. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you what colors to mix together to make, but I really liked the pose. I love drawing yoga poses like this because it's out of the ordinary. Oh, That was my elbow. You know, when it comes to doing figure drawing, it's just not something you usually get to work with, or at least in my experience. So that's why a lot of times I'll go for that. Or I'll go for drawing couples, because that's a really good exercise as well. Because not only do you have to get the figures just so, you have to make sure that they relate to each other, you know, properly with proportions and all of that. So at the moment, those are my two favorite things to do when doing figure studies: yoga poses and couples. Oh, and the little cube that she has between her hands was also colored in with Crayola crayons. This part I don't feel like I have as much control over. Must be an angle I'm at. I was resting my elbow on the table. I think that was limiting me as well. I got a little bit of blue on her leg. Ah. Yeah, okay. So I was resting my elbow on the table. That was giving me some trouble. Ah. She's got more blue on her leg. So the only part of this that I did, that I used a pencil with, or to sketch out first, was the circle. And I traced around the lid of a jar, or the mouth of the jar rather. I don't keep the lids for my jars, I use them to store my pencils and brushes in, so I don't have a purpose for the lid. So it was the mouth of the jar, I think is what it's called. Traced around that. Has freehanding a circle. That doesn't go so well for me. And I traced around it with a pencil, and then just left that pencil line and went over it with a yellow crayon. Alright, we're in that home stretch there. So now it's time to rinse out my brush. And let's see, I'm going to go for this purple here. Fill in this one. See, so this is watercolor paint instead of the watercolor pencils, and as you can see, it's smoother than the watercolor pencils. Now, I might try to push the watercolor pencils a bit more if I were working with watercolor paper, but I don't want to mess up and wreck this because I got the paper too wet on the watercolor pencils, so I didn't push them probably as far as I could have. Almost done. I kind of like that the colors are uneven in this rectangle. because it looks a little bit more like clouds in the sky, I think, at sunset, or it reminds me of it anyway. So it's, I like the effect. Got a little bit of purple on her leg, I think. Yep, went over the crayon. Okay. Just one more to fill in. I'm gonna use, well, maybe not. I was thinking about using a smaller brush, but I think I'll stick it out with this one. Let's see. Trying not to let that run over. I got a little too much water on my brush. Got a little bit of blue in that top rectangle in there. Alright, almost done. So I am going to go ahead and wish y'all a nice evening, and that you enjoy the rest of today. Thank you for choosing to spend your time watching my videos. I do appreciate it. The last video cut me off before I got to say it, but I did write it in the descriptions because I want you to know that I really do appreciate you watching my videos. Any questions, comments, just want to say hey, feel free to leave that below in the comment area. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Anytime you see one of my videos that you like, please do share the links on your social media pages or text them to your friends, whatever is your preferred method of sharing links. And alright, I will see you back here tomorrow. Take care and stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.